Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now the US dollar index is crashing, which is massive news for Bitcoin and crypto. Also, in this video, I'll be talking about the possibility of a larger pullback, what we could expect in that scenario, and also new patterns that are forming in the short term. So definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the daily Bitcoin chart, and right now the price of Bitcoin is still playing out the bearish divergence on the daily time frame that I've been talking about for a while now here on the channel. And so, like I've said in my last few videos here on the channel, due to this bearish divergence, I would not necessarily expect a lot of bullish price action in the immediate short term, and we're likely going to see either some choppy sideways price action, if not a pullback, potentially over the next 1 to 2 weeks or so. And obviously, so far, it's been around half a week since this bearish divergence confirmed on the daily time frame, which basically means potentially over the next 1 week, we're likely going to see a bit more of a consolidation or potentially a bit more of a pullback. And of course, we do have some short-term support levels, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But as for significant support here on the daily time frame, based on this previous area of resistance, this is now acting as new support, sitting in between around 30.5k to 31.5k. And now, if this short-term pullback were to continue in a bit more of a short-term bearish trend, kind of like what we saw back here or back here, for example. So basically, if we start forming lower lows and lower highs here on the daily time frame, then in that case, looking at past pullbacks and past short-term bearish trends that we've seen here on the daily time frame over the last 1 year or so during this much larger bullish trend, what we usually see is if the price of Bitcoin begins forming some lower lows and lower highs on the daily time frame, oftentimes we see roughly around a 20% pullback before heading higher. Once again, that's just what we've seen over the last 1 year during this larger bullish trend. And now, obviously, that does not guarantee that we are definitely going to see another 20% pullback coming soon. Once again, that does not guarantee that's going to happen. But what it does mean is that if we do end up seeing a 15 to 20% pullback from the high, of course, that is not out of the ordinary. We have seen that multiple times throughout the last 1 year, and we can still remain within the much larger bullish trend, even if we see a 20% pullback. And in that case, if we were to see a 20% pullback from the high, that would put the price at around 30,500, close to 31k, which is right where that major area of support is sitting at. And now, once again, I am not saying that that is definitely going to happen and we're going to see those prices again. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is if we do end up retesting 30 to 31k, personally, I'll be using that as a massive buying opportunity, because simply based on past 20% pullbacks that we've seen over the last 1 year, pretty much all of these have turned out to be great buying opportunities, because over the last 1 year has been a much larger bullish trend. But with that being said, even though we've seen a bit of a short-term pullback over the last few days, mainly as a result of this bearish divergence, at least as of right now, it is not looking too likely that this pullback could continue much further, simply based on the DXY, the US dollar index, absolutely crashing right now. Because in case you're new to this channel, when the DXY dumps to the downside, that is good news for Bitcoin and crypto. And when it pumps to the upside, that is bad news for Bitcoin and crypto. And that is visualized on this chart right here, because this chart is on the daily time frame and it shows the Bitcoin price in the candlesticks and the DXY or US dollar index here in the red line on the same time frame. And as you can clearly see, pretty much every time where we see a major move to the downside in the DXY, that is pretty much always bullish for the price of Bitcoin. And vice versa, if the DXY is pumping to the upside in this red line right here, that is usually bearish for the price of Bitcoin. And now, obviously, this is not 100% perfect. For example, there are some cases here and there, just in the short term, where these two can move in the same direction. But pretty much all the time, 90% plus of the time, these two are inversely correlated or negative correlated, which basically means they move in opposite directions. So with this massive DXY crash that we're seeing right now, once again, technically speaking, this is a major bullish signal for Bitcoin and crypto, which is telling us that this pullback that we've seen over the last few days might not last too much longer. And so simply due to the fact that we are seeing this in the DXY, but we also still have an active bearish divergence for Bitcoin on the daily time frame, it's quite likely that potentially over the next few days, we're going to basically chop around flat sideways somewhat here in the short term. And of course, if the DXY continues to dump like what it's been doing recently, that is bullish for Bitcoin, meaning perhaps in a week from now, we could invalidate the bearish divergence with a new higher high. And I would only start to flip a little bit more bearish, basically expecting a bit more of a pullback if this bearish divergence remains active while the DXY also experiences a bit of a reversal. If we see a decent bounce back to the upside in the DXY and more importantly breakout above this area on the chart, sitting in between around 105.6 to 105.9, then in that case, that would be a fairly strong bearish signal for Bitcoin. And so if we see that in the DXY, while the bearish divergence is still active, that is where we could potentially see that 20% pullback scenario, or at least a 10 to 15% pullback. But once again, at least for now, while the DXY is crashing, it's very difficult to see any major pullback in the price of Bitcoin. And just before heading into the shorter term and some important Ethereum charts later in the video, just quickly reminding you that right now there's a massive $1 million trading competition happening over at Bybit. And so if you're trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out to potentially win that massive prize pool or a share in that massive prize pool. And for those of you who do not trade on the derivatives market and instead like to trade on the spot market without leverage, there's also a huge spot trading competition happening right now at Bybit as well. And this spot trading competition has a total prize pool, a maximum prize pool of up to 100,000 USDT. And so once again, if you're trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out because you could potentially win a share in these huge prize pools. And as always, I'll make sure to leave a link to both of these pages in the description down below and in the pinned comment. The first link will take you to the $1 million derivatives competition, and the second link below this video will take you to that spot trading competition with a prize pool of up to 100,000 US dollars. But anyway, getting back into the Bitcoin part of this video, this is on the 8-hour Bitcoin chart, and obviously over the last one day, we did end up seeing a break below this previous line of resistance, which temporarily was acting as a bit of support, and that was sitting at around 36.4k approximately. And as I said in my last video, if we confirm a break below that level, then we're likely going to see a dump down towards this line, which is exactly what we saw as expected, and that line was sitting at approximately 35.2 to 35.3k. And we did actually see a slight wick to the downside below that level, but obviously we did end up bouncing around those prices, and as I'm recording this video, we can clearly see a bit of a bounce happening here in the short term. People are buying the dip. But as for short-term resistance, we could find some new resistance at this previous line of resistance once again, which is sitting at around 36.5k. But if we see a breakout back above 36.5k, then it's possible we could revisit these highs closer towards around 37,000 if you're looking at the candle closes. And if you're looking at the 6-hour time frame, we can clearly see this hidden bullish divergence is not only still active, but it has just recently been extended, because obviously over the last one day, we have seen a new higher low put in place here in the price of Bitcoin, while the RSI has just made a new lower low. And so once again, this is a new hidden bullish divergence active right now as of recording this video in the short term, which is basically telling us we might not see too much more bearish price action just in the short term. And instead, like I said earlier, because we have this hidden bullish divergence, but also still a bearish divergence on the daily time frame, we might end up seeing a bit of choppy sideways price action over the next few days or potentially over the next 1 week. And the choppy sideways price action I would expect for Bitcoin is basically in between around 35k to 37k approximately. And in order to invalidate this hidden bullish divergence, we simply need to break back below the most recent low, which is this low right here at around 35,500. But anyway, getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this is on the weekly time frame, and obviously right now we're still running into that major area of resistance based on these two previous highs, sitting in between around $2,000 to $2,150. But even though the price is running into major resistance and we're somewhat struggling in the short term around that area, of course we're still forming a giant ascending triangle pattern, which is technically a bullish pattern. And so like I've been saying, on the larger time frames, despite what's happening in the short term, on the larger time frames I'm still leaning more bullish than bearish. And now if you're zooming into the daily time frame, we can see over the last one day the price of ETH has obviously broken below that important area of support, which was sitting in between around $2,000 to $2,030 based on previous resistance. But like I also said in my last video, if we broke below $2,000, we would likely see a move down towards around 1.9k, and the price got all the way down down towards around 1910, 1920 before a bounce. So we got very close to 1.9k, but obviously fell a little bit short. And right now, as of recording this video, once again, we are seeing a bounce just in the short term, basically retesting this previous short-term support, which could potentially be acting as new resistance. But if we do end up seeing a confirmed breakout back above 2030 and ideally flip that into new support again, we would be basically breaking back into this sideways price range with this new area of resistance up here, once again in between around 2.1k to 2150 approximately. And as for the daily Ethereum price oscillators, at least for now, these are still currently looking more bullish than bearish, despite the RSI recently entering into overbought territories, telling us we're due to see a bit of a short-term cool-off during the bullish trend. But what we are now seeing in the short term on the 8-hour ETH to US dollar chart is another higher low forming in the short term in the price, while the RSI is actually forming a lower low. And so once again, this is a new hidden bullish divergence for the price of ETH, which basically means we're going to see either at the very least some choppy sideways price action, if not a little bit more of a bounce in the short term, as in over the next few days or so. And this hidden bullish divergence only invalidates if we see a break below this low right here, which is sitting at around 1970 approximately if you're looking at the candle closes. And so at least in the short term, of course, we were due to see a bit of a pullback, especially with the RSI overbought. We were due to see a bit of a cool off, but now with these new hidden bullish divergences in the short term, this is helping with a bit of a small bounce, a small recovery from that short-term pullback. And once again, it would be very difficult to see a much larger pullback in the price of ETH, Bitcoin, or many other cryptos out there while the DXY is dumping like it is right now, because once again, this is a major bullish signal, which is basically stopping the crypto markets from pulling back a lot further. But either way, whether you think the price is going to the upside, to the downside, or simply going to chop around sideways, you can still make money in crypto in either of those scenarios by watching these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how to make money if the price is bullish or bearish using AI, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.